Oh my gosh, this is so boring. I can't believe I'm sitting in the staff meeting. I'm just gonna do some doodling. Oh yeah, make this building here. Oh, that's pretty cool. Oh, here's some lava cloud. Oh, that's a girl. Oh yeah. I wonder what I can do here. It looks like kind of some hair or something. Maybe I'll try to draw an ear. Some hair here. There's an eyeball. Ooh, the line's not even touching. Look at that. It's crazy. It's like one continuous whole line. Oh my gosh, there's chin, mouth. Oh, let's try that again. Let's see if I can make it a little bit better. There's an ear, jawbone, chin, another jawbone. I'm gonna go back to the ear, make some hair. Oh gosh, I can't stand staff meetings. It's so crazy. Some hair. I'm gonna go back and do some eyeballs here. Ooh, that was kind of cool. Weird little cartoony nose. Another maybe eyeball. Oh, don't touch. Don't. I touched it. Oh well. It's okay. I need to draw some lips. Some lips. Maybe give them some buck teeth or something. There we go. That's cool. And that one. That's pretty cool. Continuous line drawing. That's kind of nice. No lines can touch. That's kind of cartoony. It's not realistic. This is really fun. All right. Cool.
I hope you enjoyed the short little mini clip of the Angry Doodler. I know when I'm bored or on the phone, I turn into an expert, extreme doodler. And that's not a bad thing. In fact, a Time magazine article said that doodling helps people pay attention. That must be why I got good grades in government class. Doodling isn't all bad. And in fact, I suggest you do it as much as you can because it improves drawing skills. Who knows, maybe your next doodle will turn into your next masterpiece. On to the next project. It's called the Continuous Line Cartoon Portrait. The goal of this project is to produce an original cartoon portrait using one continuous line that never touches. Some suggestions. You might want to think of some ideas for some characters that you may want to make. These can be humans, they can be animals, they can be aliens, they can be robots. However, it must be a portrait because a portrait is a depiction of someone's head or face. If you'd like to think of a famous person or someone that you idolize or maybe a famous movie character, why don't you have a go at trying that as well? The criteria. For this lesson, you're going to be using a pencil to produce 4 different sketches of continuous line cartoon portraits. The sketch sheet is made for sketching. It's a place for you to develop your ideas. You don't have to get your character done the first try. It may take several tries. They made erasers for a reason. I use erasers quite a bit, and I sketch quite a bit. You're going to fill the space of your sketch sheet. Hopefully you're going to develop one final idea to use for your larger project. When you're finished, you're going to select one of your sketches and you're going to accurately enlarge it onto manila paper using the grid drawing process, which I will highlight later. Your enlarged image will then be markered using a thick Sharpie. You're going to erase the grid lines that you've created, and you're going to add color via colored pencil, shading, and layering, which I will demonstrate later as well. Remember, shading is adding values to create the illusion of form. You will be adding shading using colored pencils applied in even strokes to show a gradient from dark to light. Layering is where you apply colors on top of one another to create color richness and contrast. Using shading and layering together will add more depth and realness to your drawings. On this top cartoon drawing, the line starts here and we go all the way around. We go into the ear, we go into the chin, another ear and hair, and then the hair comes down into the brow. And we got eyes and nose and mustache, and then it's going to end right here at the nose. Okay. Take a look at Crazy Lady here, starting with the hair and goes all the way around into the nose. This guy here, starting at the ear, goes all the way around and ends at the eye. It's one continuous line. None of these lines are touching each other. That's why it's called a continuous line portrait. Okay. Again, we're going for a cartoon look. It's cartoony. It doesn't have to look like anybody. It's supposed to be whimsical. It's supposed to be fun, which is exactly what I want you to do with this, is have fun with it. Here's an example of some more. You're going to notice the one down here might look kind of familiar. I tried to do a continuous line portrait that looked like myself back when I had a goatee. This looks kind of like Jimi Hendrix, and I call this one my emo kid. And I really like that one. He's got crazy hair and earrings and looks like he's mad at the world. He's got some growling teeth. Right. To show you the process on how you're going to do this, I know this may seem daunting. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so I can give you a better idea as to what we're going to be doing here. There's not a really bad place to start. You can start wherever you'd like to. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and start with the hair. I want this guy to have jagged hair. So I'm going to go ahead and just start, and I'm going to start drawing spiky hair. I want to make sure that my lines aren't going to touch each other. It looks pretty crazy. He's got to have an ear, so I'm going to go ahead and draw an ear and make some weird swirly shape inside there. Maybe he has some bubbly cheeks and a pointy chin. I'm going to give his other side bubbly cheeks and make another ear here. And maybe the hair comes out. I'm going to come down here and give him a hairline. And maybe that hairline is going to connect into his eyebrow. And that comes down. I'm going to have a little eye here. And maybe this eye will connect to his nose. And we're going to give him a little mouth. And we're going to bring it back up and finish his other eyeball and eyebrow. Now, it looks kind of weird, it's kind of crazy, but that's the point. Okay, this is a cartoon character. This is made up of one line, one continuous line. You get the gist. And hopefully you're going to find one that you really like. We're looking for all of these sketches to fill this entire space because we are going to be putting a 1-inch grid on here and enlarging it. So we want the space to be filled.
Okay, so you've got your 4 sketches completed. Now it's time to put a grid on the cartoon that you're going to select to enlarge. In this case, I'm going to select the one that looks like Dr. J here. You're going to need a ruler and a pencil, and we're going to start with the ruler on the left side of your sketch. So we're going to line the left edge of the ruler up with the left side, and we're going to put a mark at every inch. 1, 2, and 3 inches. And you're going to move your ruler down to the bottom edge of the paper. Don't turn your paper, just move your ruler down because we want to measure from the same side. And again, we're going to measure over 1, 2, and 3 inches. Now turn your ruler, and we're going to do the same measurements from the top of the sketch down to the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to move our ruler over to the right, and we're going to repeat those measurements once more. Okay, now you're going to connect all your hard work here. So using your ruler, you're going to make sure you draw a line that goes directly through your measurements. So they go directly through there. This is going to ensure that your lines are parallel to each other, which will make your grid squares look like squares and not rectangles. Once again, the line should go through both marks. And we're going to repeat the process with our vertical measurements. And the line's going through both marks. And fix that one. And the last one here. Good. So the finished result is you should have 4 squares across by 5 squares down or high.
Okay, now we want to grid our large papers. We're going to do this the same way. I'm lining the ruler up with the left edge, and then we're going to put a grid every 2 inches. Go ahead and move the ruler down every 2 inches. And I'm going to measure from the top down every 2 inches, put a mark. And on the right side every 2 inches and put a mark. I'm going to take your ruler and make sure that you align both marks and that the line goes through both marks. If you'd like to make a grid larger, like a 3-inch grid, you can put a mark every 3 inches. Or you could do a 4-inch grid, put a mark every 4 inches. This is just how you can enlarge a drawing. In this case, we're enlarging it double its size by creating a 2-inch grid. There you have it, 4 squares across by 5 squares down.
All right, so I want to give you a demonstration on how to complete a grid enlargement drawing. A few tips and tricks. The reason that we use grid drawing is so that we can accurately enlarge some of our drawings. Another reason that we use a grid when we draw is so that we can draw accurately. By applying squares over top of our drawing, it breaks down all the visual information into smaller squares or smaller sections so that we can focus our attention on a few lines at a time. So what I have here is I have my sketch that's gridded with a 1-inch grid, and I also have my larger manila paper that has a 2-inch grid on it. And I tried to highlight in red here the two different sections. The two same sections of the sketch and the drawing. As you can see here, I'm going to draw this section onto my manila paper. This square is 2 times larger than the square on my sketch. I used a 1-inch grid here and a 2-inch grid here. When you go about grid drawing, it's important to kind of try to figure out what you're looking at. You're trying to relate the lines of the drawing to the outside edge of the grid squares. Some things that can help you are what I like to call marking the halfway points. So if I take and I put a little dash halfway along each side of my grid square, that can help me relate lines to the halfway points. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to put a little halfway mark on all 4 sides of my grid square. Now, if I were to go in and start drawing this eye, I know that it's going to start probably about right in here, and it's going to come down. The pupil is a little bit past that halfway mark, and we come down, and the other part of the eye is ending about there. Okay. I see that the side of the eye here, there's a little tiny triangle, so I know it has to start here. It's coming down, and as far as it is down, it's about halfway on the left side of this grid square. So I'm going to bring that down, and I'm coming across. It's good to have those markers on the sides so that you can relate, once again, the lines that you're drawing to the outside edge of the grid squares. I'm going to go ahead and continue here, drawing what I see. If I look at the bottom of this nose in relation to the halfway point, it looks like I've gone a little too low. So I'm going to keep in mind you can go slow. This isn't a race. Again, you're trying to sketch. Another thing that you can do, another nice technique or tool to help you is, instead of marking the halfway points, you can subdivide or make your grid into smaller squares. So I'm actually going to connect these halfway marks and create a smaller grid. And this breaks down the visual information even further. So now I'm looking at what's in this square, or just what's in this square, and I'm trying to get a little bit more accurate. So I know that I made this go down, the nose go down way too low, and I'm going to try to fix that now. And that looks better. And I'm going to finish off here with the lip. And that's going to come down, and we're going to go around and come down. If you continue this process throughout your drawing, when you finish and you go through and you've done all your squares, you should have an accurate drawing of your character that's enlarged. Remember, the two keys to grid drawing are you can mark your halfway points. You're relating the lines that you're drawing to the halfway points. If that's not going to help you, then you can always subdivide your squares into smaller squares. Good luck. Okay, so we've got this bad boy drawn, and now it's time to clean up our drawing with some nice clean Sharpied outlines. What I tend to see a lot is people that tend to outline in little tiny scratches. I call that chicken scratch, and that does not look very good, and so please don't do that. What you want to do is you want to try to outline it with a clean, smooth, even pressured line. If you have to stop and then start again, that's okay. But the overall result is going to give you a nice, clean, even look. So let's apply this to our drawing. Again, we're trying to clean our pencil lines up, so you got to take your time. You want to show that you're a great craftsman. So go slow as you need to try to make this look as neat as possible. And once again, starting and stopping is okay. This is not a race. If you get down into detailed areas, such as like the eye down here where there's a bunch of small lines, take your time and go real slow, start and stop, and try to make your outlines as clean and neat as you possibly can. Okay. Once you're finished outlining, you're going to take an eraser and you're going to get rid of any of that excess pencil sketches that are around your outlines. And it's pretty easy. Wipe off that dust.
Once you have finished your continuous line portrait, we are going to add color in the form of colored pencil halo. To give you kind of an idea of that, I've created just a simple continuous line portrait, cartoony. And you're going to notice here that I have shading. I've got two colors. I've got a light green, which looks like this, and it fades from dark to light. And then I've layered a darker green about halfway into that. So it's making kind of a halo, kind of a glow effect. Down here, I've drawn a line just to kind of demo and show you what I mean by this. So basically, you're going to take your pencils. Again, you want to make sure that they're sharp, and you're going to shade next to the line, and you want to fade this out away from the line. So I'm going about a ½ inch out away. I'm easing the pressure off as I go away from the line. So it fades from dark to light that way. So this is called shading. Hopefully you all know that by now. I'm going to take another color. This time it's going to be a darker green. And I'm going to do the same exact thing, but I'm not going to fade it quite as far. Okay? When I put another color on top of here, that's called layering. I'm layering the color, and I'm fading it out as I go. Not going quite as far as the light green, but I'm fading it out. Okay? So that's what we're going to do after you finish drawing and outlining this bad boy. It may be kind of hard to decide where you want to do the shading and layering on your your continuous line face. A good rule of thumb is just to try to make it even, try to make it coherent. So if you look at this guy that I did, let me zoom in for you real quick. You know, I didn't shade and layer over every single line. I just kind of put it here and there and picked and choose which lines I wanted to put the halo on. A majority of the lines should have some kind of shaded layering. So here it is, the finished version of the continuous line cartoon portrait project. Nice, even, smooth lines, very detailed, interesting face that fills the entire space of the paper. The colored pencil work is really nice. You can tell that there's a light blue and dark blue halo around this, and color has been placed evenly around the cartoon character. I think you all will do a great job on this project. Pretty easy one to put in the grade book to get that A. Good luck to you. Take care. Your rubric that I will use to grade these, again, we're trying to follow criteria. No lines that are touching. The face needs to be somewhat detailed and interesting. It should probably have eyes, nose, and a mouth. I've had people in the past that have done aliens and have had one eye, but the eye's pretty interesting. We're going to move on to outlining. Your outlining should be nice and smooth. It should be smooth lines, not chicken scratch. Okay, we're going to use Sharpie. You should be able to handle that as well. Coloring, you need to have a 3-color color scheme or 2-color color scheme. That's why it says 2 there. So 2 or 3 colors. Again, we are shading it and it's being layered. So you have to layer 2 colors. And when we use colored pencil, it should never, ever, 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 ever be waxy. Okay, nice and smooth, nice fades. The last section here is that you put a name tag on your project and the project is neat. You didn't roll it up and put a rubber band around it and then sit on it and jump on it and make it all foldy and nasty. Okay, there shouldn't be boogers smeared across your paper. It should be nice, clean, and neat. All right, let's take a look at some student work here and visually assess it. So this particular drawing is one continuous line. The design fills the space. It's pretty detailed. There's eyes, nose, and mouth. The outlining is nice and clean, and the shading and layering is nice and faded. This project meets expectations. The drawing does fill the space, but it's pretty simplistic in nature. The outlining does look smooth. The coloring, on the other hand, they tried to attempt to layer colors, but the fade or shading didn't quite meet expectations. And the last one here, the size of this drawing does not fill the paper. I'm not really sure what this is, if it's a melting cassette tape. It doesn't really appear to be a face. If I look at the outlining, it's very uneven. The coloring, the layering and shading is pretty non-existent. It just looks like minimal effort was put forward. So this project does not meet expectations.